Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to another clickbait video about debt payoff strategies where I pretend this is not clickbait, but it kind of is. And we're going to talk about velocity banking. But before we get started, let me show this because this is just something that I want you to stare at for maybe 5 to 10 seconds because they say that the more you stare at it, the more my ego grows. That's what I've heard. And if you don't know what it is, it's a mortgage that I paid off in 2 years and 9 months. Yeah, I know, right? 2 years and 9 months, $0, lien position one, zero balance, and yeah, I paid it off in 2 years and 9 months. And so, why am I talking about this? Because, sometimes when I just open my mouth and I tell other people, like, they make me feel like I'm a liar. And I'm like, am I a liar? And then I had like the screenshots, and it kind of felt like this time when I met this older Korean gentleman, right? Guy had 5 commercial properties. 5 commercial properties. He even has the same name as me. It's crazy, right? And then he's like, "Oh yeah, like if you want money for real estate deals, here's 2 million bucks." And I'm just like, "What?" And then he just shows me his cell phone, and it's like 2 million in his checking account, and it's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, if you want money, you can borrow from me 2 million." I'm like, "What?" So again, there's higher and higher levels to this game, but I know for 98% of people, they'll never reach the level of paying off a mortgage in 2 years and 9 months. They'll never do it, and it's okay if you don't. But a lot of people are like, well, this is really fake, and you must be photoshopping this, and I'm like, whatever. And sometimes if I actually hear that enough, I might actually believe you. Like, oh yeah, maybe this is fake. Maybe the letter that the bank sent me that my lien was canceled, right? Or whatever, that my mortgage was paid off. Yeah, that's probably fake. But yeah, that's how I attract people with the clickbait, right? Just show them these screenshots. I could show them other screenshots too. One of my first rental checks, actually, this was probably my third one, 14 grand from one tenant. And then let me show you here. I actually started a short-term rental. It's funny is like I was watching all these like short-term rental crash videos, and I still decided like let me start a short-term rental. I don't know why I did that, but then $5,000 for one house in July, 4,000 in August. What? A guest wanted to pay 13 grand, and this is after all the Airbnb fees. 13 grand to stay at my property. Whoa. Okay. Lots of clickbait. I don't know if it's clickbait or not, if it's real, but I know that most people, they see this and they'll just kind of like, it provokes a reaction. Whereas for me, it's like that movie from Street Fighter the movie from the 90s with Raul Julia. You ever watch that movie, Street Fighter the movie? In fact, let me go ahead and type in Street Fighter the movie, right? 1994 with John Claude Van Damme, where oh look at those biceps. Okay. Where M Bison's like, the day that M Bison, the bad guy, graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday, right? That's how I feel when I show these screenshots. But actually, you know what? It's actually Saturday today. So it was Saturday. But yeah, I mean, I- so some people think, this is not realistic. And I said, dude, it's totally not realistic. I asked ChatGPT, um, what percentage of people does this put me in? Okay, if I paid off a mortgage in 2 years and 9 months, and they said top one. So top one, of course it's not, because if we were realistic, it would be like, oh, you're in the average 50% or the median, but I'm in top one. So okay. Anyways, I don't even know why I'm showing this, but if you're new to the channel, I just want you to know who I am. I'm some dude on the internet who just kind of posts these screenshots that may or may not be fake, and this could be totally clickbait because I need to make that sweet $200 of ad revenue a month on YouTube. That's what I make on average, right? At a minimum, $200, because that's what people do. They stare at these screenshots, these spreadsheets, and then YouTube says, "Hey, people watch so much that they're just depositing $200. They're going to deposit $200 a month for really just me talking about what I did." Isn't that crazy? All right, so let's get started with velocity banking. So, what is velocity banking? All it is a debt payoff strategy where you throw all of your money into debt with the help of something called a line of credit. And actually, let's just kind of do this. This is from a previous session or review that we did. Let's do this, okay? So let's go over the first steps. So, what's the first steps to velocity banking? Number one is you need to create a budget because this is a debt attack plan, and your budget is your debt attack plan, right? That's you have to write your income, expenses, leftover savings, and then in your expense breakdown, you list down every single debt that you have, right? Every single debt that you have, and then in the last line, you put in your general expenses that you always have to pay for food, gas, insurance, and all that other stuff. Now, what most people don't understand is they ask questions, which I'll say are stupid. And the reason I say are stupid, and I'm not calling you stupid, is because they don't understand how debt works, right? Number one rule of debt, except for student loans, because that's an exception, is that banks don't lend money to people who need it. So when people say, well, how do I do this on a low income. I'm like, well, the bank wouldn't lend you money if you have low income, right? Or they're gonna give you like a $500 credit card at best, right? Because what the bank is hoping for is that as you make more money, right? As you make more money, they'll just say, "Hey, with this relatively low payment, what relatively low payment, it's okay. It'll just make it easier for you to save money, manage your cash flow, right?" And the way that the bank makes money is small payments over time. So if you have too many small payments over time, that's when they got you, right? That's when they got you. That's how you get into the situation where you got decent income and you got all these credit card debts and well, the student loan's the exception, and we could talk about that at a later time. And then a mortgage, it's like, hey buddy, you remember when you got those like mailers in the for debt in the mail, like credit cards? The bank knows um when you don't need money, right? That's why they send you the letters. It's like, this person doesn't need money, and then kind of like a vampire, right? Once they drained all your blood and see that, hey, you're negative $276, they're like, this person needs money, okay? Like we're not gonna deal with this, but. When people think like low income, a bank will avoid you like the plague when they realize you don't have money because banks don't lend money to people who need it, right? Banks don't lend money to people. We have to understand that. And the reason I talk about this, okay, and I'm going to talk about second step is that you need a line of credit. And if you don't know what a line of credit is, all it is a financial tool where you could borrow money, pay it back, and then use it over and over again. That's essentially what a line of credit is. You're going to need that for doing velocity banking. And if you're, let's say, negative $276 in savings and you're trying to get lines of credit, the bank's going to look at you like you're the dumbest person on earth. In fact, it's not even them, anyone working at the bank, it's their automated systems, right? Like they spend a lot investing in automated systems because believe it or not, especially in the business credit world, 90% of applications are fraudulent. 90%. So, a lot of if you step outside your house and you see like 10 people, or we'll see like 100 people, right? 90 of those people don't have good financials according to the bank, especially if they're trying to get business credit. Okay. Same thing with mortgages too. Most people can't afford a home, right? I'm not dogging on you. I'm telling you what the bank's point of view is, what the reality is, and the secret to getting lines of credit. And I say this as a person who has over 711, and this is probably going to be 730 soon or 740, um, who has over $700,000 in lines of credit. 711. And how do I get all this? Is because I know the secret that the banks don't tell you, which is they don't lend money to people who need it. So every time I wake up, and maybe it could be like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. when I just have maybe a little bit trouble going to sleep. I'm like, do I need money today? And if the answer is yes, I'm not going to a bank. I have some issues I need to fix, right? But if the answer is no, I don't need money, I'm going to apply for a line of credit, whether it's a personal credit card, business credit card, personal line of credit. This is my latest credit card from a credit union, 14 grand. And I decided to apply for another personal line of credit from that credit union. They said I was pre-approved for like 20 grand on a personal line of credit. So like I said, this may go up, right? Or the line of credit limit may go up, but it's 14 grand. And then you see this 14 grand credit card. Again, how would I get it? Because I don't need money, right? That's who the bank lends to. And so when you have $711,000 in lines of credit, it's because you were just at a point that you just went to the bank, say, "Hey, can you lend me some credit?" And they just check, "Oh, do you need money?" And they understand you don't, okay? They understand you don't, then that's when they wanna lend to you, right? That's when they wanna lend to you, right? People don't understand this. You're like, "How do you do this when you're low income?" You don't. You gotta fix that. Then, once you tackle on some debt and use that to, let's say, gain some assets that's gonna generate you some wealth eventually, then, that's when you kinda think about getting credit, especially when you have to manage cash flow issues, because a lot of businesses, they don't know how to manage their cash flow, right? They don't know how to manage it. Anyways, so let's go ahead and go in here. And so what we do is we just kind of do this same income, same expenses, right? And what we're going to do, so here's kind of like the one of the necessary ingredients, the quote secret sauce, is that we don't save money, right? So I'm not going to save money here, right? The no money saved here, right? And so if you want to see how this looks like in real life, you just I'm going to go all the way up, just my checking account, and you see that, oh, okay, 19 grand came in and then 19 grand went out. Oh, interesting. Okay. 19 grand came in and then 19 grand came out, and where'd it go? It went to the line of credit, right? So this is like kind of like this is savings number in when you do velocity banking is different from the cash flow number. Whereas in traditional banking, it's pretty much the same, right? Like you just kind of pay all your debts and then whatever is left over is your cash flow. Whereas velocity banking, you're using all of your money to pay off your debt. So what we're going to do is just kind of move debts into a line of credit. Cheat code, start off with the high interest rate credit cards. So how much is this? This is going to be 15, 27, 30, 35, 12. And then I'm just going to do this, and it's going to be $119,000 of credit card debt. And again, would you have, and we're going to assume that we have a free and clear $210,000 line of credit at 8.5%, kind of like my home equity line of credit right here. Actually, it's 373,000. I had a 280,000. Again, I didn't need money. I just kept asking for more. Can you give me more, please? Like Oliver Twist. More. Wait, is that Oliver Twist? Anyways, okay, so let me go ahead and go here. But the whole point of me showing you about free and clear line of credit is like, what if you had one? This would have been a lifesaver for you, right? Because if you did this, right, and then I'm just going to show you what happens if you had a free and clear line of credit and you move some debt into it. Oh my goodness. Like 5 credit card debts, right? There's going to be a shift in how things work for you, because you're not going to save money, and you magically went from negative $276 to $3,563.49. Whoa, how did that happen? Oh my goodness. You see how the income's the same? Oh, what? The income is the same? Yeah. Yeah. And we literally went from negative $276 to $3,563.49. How'd that happen? Right? Anyways, so now this number is our cash flow, and then we're going to dump our entire paycheck into the line, take our expenses out, and then rinse and repeat over and over again. And then I'm going to do this. And then so I'm going to take the previous month's balance, interest, and then subtract the cash flow, which is 3563.49. And then we're going to take the interest, which is based on the average daily balance, multiply it by the interest rate. In this case, will be 0.85%. Normally, I use 8. I've had my previous home equity line of credit was 7.5, right? So I actually got an 8.5 because everything's a trade-off. Everything's a trade-off. Whoopsie, and I got to divide by 12. Like $9,000 of interest a month. That's insane. But all right, so let's go ahead and do this. And then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to copy and paste. And then let's see how long it takes us to pay it off. 39 months to pay off that credit card debt. So let me go ahead and sum it up. 39 months. All right. Not bad for being negative 200 in the hole. 200, almost negative 300 to 3,500. That's pretty sweet, right? And so 39 months, okay? So 39 months and then 119K. And then I'm going to do this right here. and then we got the student loan and then the personal mortgage. So at 39 months, let's figure out what's up with these. Got this loan calculator right here. So I just got to type in 39 months. All right. And then we see that in 39 months, we got an 89 grand balance in the line of credit and a 7% interest rate. Okay. So what we can do is we can do two things to pay off a debt, especially if there's an interest rate difference. You don't want to move the whole loan into the line of credit. And this is especially important with the 30-year mortgage, right? But with this one, I'm going to be a little lazy and move the whole thing into the line of credit. 7% interest rate of the loan, 8.5% line of credit. Yeah, I'll be lazy, but I probably could save a little bit more money if I don't move the whole thing into the line of credit. But I'm just going to do this right here. Plus 89737.03. And then, let's get this $1,400 cash flow back. And then now we're almost at $5,000. And let's see how fast we can pay this off. So this is going to be 4956.79. And then this is going to be 58 months. 58 months till the student loan's paid off. How much is that? It's 119 plus 120, and then this is going to be 239K. Right. So now 58 and then 0. And then now you see that the balance of the $200,000 3% mortgage is right now $178,000, right? Now, here's the thing. You got to tackle the mortgage last. Now, why is that? If you move a 3%, $178,000 loan into an 8.5% line of credit, right? You're only getting $843 back in your cash flow, right? That's what this little CFI cash flow index number means. Just a simple formula of the balance divided by the payment. Easy way to rank which debts to pay off, right? And so that's what we kind of have to understand, is that we only get this itty bitty amount of cash flow, and so you move into 8.5% line of credit, that might be you might be you might be paying up more than you have to. Okay, so let's go ahead and use a velocity banking calculator to figure out what the debt payoff is. So it's going to be 200,000 at 3%, right? So 200. And I know that nowadays this is really cheap, but a lot of people have mortgages like this. So it's like, why do you do 3%? Because a ton of people have 3% mortgages, even at these balances, right? And so let me go ahead and see what the current balance is. It is 178,607.1. Whoopsie. 178,607.1, and then the pay amount is 843.21, and then your monthly income is, let me go here, which is 7,800, and the expenses is everything except for the loan we're trying to pay off, so $2,000, and then we'll just do a small chunk of 8,000, and then we see that, whoa, it gets paid off in 2.7 years. Not bad. And if you want to know where I got this from Renatus. So this is where I originally learned the velocity banking concept, and I do actually resell their education because I'm, quote, an independent contracted marketer. If you're interested in not only learning about velocity banking, but this is actually where I learned kind of like the Airbnb stuff too. I'm not saying I guarantee any of this. They always say we don't guarantee crap, right? Or SHIT. Actually, they don't say that. Those are my words. But I learned about it from here, so good to know. And also, I kind of learned about finding a property at a discount. That's like the easiest way to create wealth, especially if you're going to buy your own home. Like, don't buy a $400,000 property for 400,000. Buy a 400,000 for 3. Right? You get $100,000 discount. Same thing with a $300,000. Buy it for 2. Right? If you have $100,000, buy it for like 10 grand. You know what I mean? Like, you can do that. You can do that. Right? So I bought this house in the peak of the market in 2022. Okay. So my tenant gave me a 14 grand check. That was the first check I got. Actually, my first check was in 2023 for rental, but this is like the second or third check that my tenant gave me. Tenant moved out, and then once the tenant moved out, I was like, okay, I'll turn it to an Airbnb. And then 5 grand. The tenant was only giving me $20.50 a month. It's like, whoa, I doubled my revenue. Now, it's not all profit, of course, but I did double my revenue. More than double. I didn't even do anything. Or it feels like it doesn't. All right, so let's go back here. Something about Renatus. Click the Google form link below. I make commission off of reselling their stuff. Anyways, something 2.7 years. Blah 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 blah. So 58 divided by 12 plus 2.7, and then this is going to be 7.53 years, and then it's debt free. And then this is going to be 0. And then $5,800. Pretty sweet. 7.53 years, right? 7.53 years. Folks, I don't even know what to say. Like, this is just so normal for me because I've actually literally created over 1,000 videos on the subject. And so, might be a big deal for you, but whatever. Yeah, so let's stare at this for 5 more seconds before we end the video for today. And I know some of you are looking at this where it's like, "What?" Yeah, I know, right? So, remember, banks don't lend money to people who need it. So when I show the bank I don't need money, I'm like, "You give me the line of credit," right? So all right. Well, that's it for today, folks. This is Korean Atlanta Mentorship. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.